Hello everyone, I'm TRAKing Pat, and today's video is going to cover how to make left-handed threads in a ProtoTRAK SLX lathe. If you look at the part I have in my hand right now, this is a standard right threading tool, and you'll notice that the offset is on this side for the way that it works. And if you're like most shops, you don't have a tool to do left-handed threads in our type of a product. And if you did, the threading end would be here instead of here. So I'm going to teach you how to move the tool around different ways, run the machine in reverse, and be able to cut that left-handed thread. The first thing that we're going to talk about is how it would normally be in a standard operation, right? So here is my normal tool holder, and my threading tool would be in here like so. And I would cut from the front side moving towards the headstock. What we're going to have to do in one of the operations is we're going to take the tool and flip it to the opposite side like so, and when I lock it in, we're going to cut from the back side and run the machine in reverse. But before I do that, I'm going to show you another method, okay? So because there's more than one ways to skin a cat, what we're going to do in this case is I'm going to take my standard tool and turn it upside down. In order to get it at the right height for the center, what I did is I shimmed it underneath and then put the adjustment all the way up to the top so that I'm on the center of the part like so. Other than that, it's going to be the same way as if I cut a right-handed thread, while I'm going to run the machine in reverse. So the first thing that I have to do is I have to make my program, right? And a threading program is pretty simple. Most of you probably already know how to do standard threads. So I'm in my program mode right here, and I'm going to go to the beginning, and I'm going to select thread, right? And so if any of this is new to you guys, you'll learn it now, and if it isn't, bear with me for a second. So I'm cutting a 1-inch diameter thread, so I'm going to put 1 in the beginning. I'm going to start at Z0. It's a standard thread, so therefore it's going to be 1 inch at the other end. The length of my thread is going to be a negative 1.7 inches. And now I come to the pitch. This is usually the thing that gets people because they think that the pitch is how many threads per inch. In reality, it's the decimal equivalent to that. So the best way to do that is to figure out by taking 1 and dividing it by how many threads there are per inch. What I'm going to do is use the help key in this case and go to G, which is the calculator on the control. And I'm just going to punch in 1 divided by 12 equals, and you see the decimal answer there of 0.0833. I'm going to hit back to get out of the calculator, and I'm just going to put that answer in here, 0.0833. Hit the abset button. It's asking me how many passes I want to use. I'm going to use 8 roughing passes. I'm going to use 1 spring pass at the final. I'm going to use the standard plunge rate of 29.5 degrees, so just hit abset. It's asking me here if I want to do inside or outside threads. This is an outside thread, so 2 for outside. How many starts I want to have? It's a single lead thread, so 1. It's asking me for an RPM. I'm just going to run this at 300, and I'm going to use tool number 1. Okay? If I look at it by pushing the look button, all you're going to see is the center line and the thread. Okay? So far, so good. Now I'm going to hit the mode key, and I'm going to do the tool setup. Okay? I've actually already done this, but I want you to see what it looks like. So I'm going to go to tool setup. I'm going to select tool number 1, and I'm just going to go to edit here. And so what I did when I set this up is I touched my tool off to a 1-inch diameter and punched 1 inch in there, touched it off the end of the part, told it I was at Z0. That's all I have to do to set the tool up. Okay, so I'm going to get out of there. And the next thing I'm going to do is actually come in and test the part, all right? So here I'm going to hit the mode key again, and I'm going to go to the run mode. And in the run mode, it's telling me, hey, do you want to start at the beginning or do you want to start somewhere else? Well, in our case, we only have 1 event to work with, so I'm just going to push start. And then I'm going to push go. And it's going to go to home position. It's going to remind me to put in tool number 1, start the spindle and go, right? So this is where I'm using my upside down tool, and I'm going to cut it from the front side. So I'm going to put my first tool in and lock it in place, all right? I'm going to push reverse so that it can cut left-handed because the tool's upside down. And then, like always, I like to use tracking to make sure I'm doing this in the right place, okay? So I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to track it in with my Z hand wheel, make sure I look like I'm going in the right place. And if you don't know this, when you're doing a thread and tracking, it'll track all the way up to the beginning, and then it's going to take over to cut that thread, move out at the end of it, and then it'll let you go back to tracking. So I'm going to bring it in here close and let it do the first part. Right there, you see it takes over. And since the first cut looks good, I know the rest are going to be good also, so I'm going to hit stop. Go to CNC run, push go, and let it continue to cut the thread. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to cut the left-handed thread from the back side of the part. So you'll see in my hand now I have the tool in the holder right side up, but facing towards me, okay? And I'm going to use that this time to do that. The process is basically the same, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the program in and out mode, and I'm going to open the other tool, or the other part, okay? So I'm going to move down here, open that file, and you will notice if you want to look at it that the thread is on the opposite side of the line now, right? You'll also notice that I have a position move in here. That's just to make sure that as I come from home to the part, that I don't hit the part on the way in or the way out. What I changed in the program, I'll show you right here from the beginning. So I've got a position move that's moving to a -1.5 inches, and then I'm going to stay 1 inch away from the part and tell it to continue to the thread. Next page shows me the thread, and the only difference in this thread from the first one that I did is I'm using a negative value in the diameter at both the beginning and the end of the thread, so it knows to cut on that side, okay? The last thing I do is tell it to position back to that point so it clears the part when it goes home, okay? The same thing is kind of going to be true on the way that I set up the tool. So I'm going to move over to the setup mode, go back to tool setup. I'm going to pull up tool number 2 and hit edit like I did with the first tool, and you'll notice in here that I've got a negative value in here too. So even though the picture on the screen shows that the tool is over here, in reality, I know it's over here, okay? So I touched it off the back, gave it the 1 inch diameter in the negative side. Other than that, the tool setup is exactly the same, okay? So now we're gonna run that. So I'm gonna hit the mode key here, gonna go back to run, go back to start, push go for it to go home, okay? It's gonna move over towards the back side now, right? It's reminding me to start the spindle and make sure that this is tool number 2. So I'm going to put the machine in reverse again, and I'm going to use tracking to make sure I did this right. I always like to use tracking. It makes me feel a lot better. At that point, just like before, it takes over, but you see it's cutting on the back side. I know it looks good, so I'm going to hit stop, CNC run, and go, and let it continue to cut the entire thread from the back side. And while you're watching that video, you can actually see that it moved away from the thread before it came to the home position so that the tool would clear from the back side. Okay, now when I look at my thread, it looks pretty good, but you can actually see that it's not deep enough. That's a very common thing that happens when you're cutting with a pointed tool in a thread. The reason why is the ProtoTRAK has a simple language, and if I'm not using the custom thread that allows me to tell it what I want my minor diameter to be, it automatically calculates it from the pitch of the thread and the major diameter. So in this case, it's trying to get to the apex of the radius that should be in the bottom of the thread, and therefore it comes up too shallow. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hit the mode key and go back to the setup mode. I'm going to select the tool table, and I'm going to come down 1 to tool number 2 and over to the right, and I'm going to put a modifier in here to make it cut deeper. Now remember, I'm on the back side of the tool now, right? So that means instead of moving negative to make it cut deeper, I actually have to move positive, okay? So I'm going to put 15 thousandths in here, okay? That'll allow me to cut it a little bit deeper. I'm going to hit the mode key. I'm going to go back to the run mode, okay? I'm going to go back to start, push go, and when it tells me to start the spindle, again, I got to remember, put the spindle in reverse, okay? And I know it's going to do the right thing this time, so I'm just going to push go. Here you'll see that it's actually cutting material with every pass, because the 8 passes that I put in the threading program, because of the 29.5 degree angle, it is actually removing that 15 thousandths in every single pass of the thread. And there you go. The thread looks much better. It's completed. I hope that this is helpful information for you and that it really helps you when the next time comes that you have to do it. If you don't have the right left-handed tool, tip it upside down, cut it from the front, put it on the back, use it right side up, and get the job done and move on to the next task. The last thing I want to remind you is that whenever you're using a ProtoTRAK, it should be a fun thing to do. So enjoy what you're doing, make neat parts, make lots of money, and remember, always keep on tracking. I'm Pat from TRAK Machine Tools. Thanks for watching.